the other thing is I asked people that had been training for a long time what they would say and what they would ask. So this would be interesting because I think this is more where you're at, because, most people that sign up with you, I think, sort of trained a bit already.
Mhm.
So here's a great question, and I think this question fits with everything, nutrition and training as well. But how can I break through a fitness plateau and continue making progress? And I've been there, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when it comes to plateaus, you just need to subject your body to some form of new stimuli. That could be in the form of nutrition. Maybe you're not getting ample calories, ample total fuel coming in. Maybe you're getting too much. When it comes to training, I just simply like to change the style of training. And a lot of people make the mistake of changing that too frequently. They'll do like a 6-week program, and then they'll mix it up, and they'll think that they've plateaued after 6 weeks. Whereas in reality, that may not likely be the case. I mean, I'll oftentimes stick with a training program for months at a time, but I will be changing it on an acute basis by increasing the progressive overload as readily as I'm able. So increasing the weight lifted, the reps, maybe adding some forced reps, some drop sets, some superset, things of that nature, but sticking with those same movements for quite a bit of time. You don't need to change up the actual movements that much. But you might want to focus on having more of an explosive period of training where you're focusing on, lifting that weight as quickly as possible with good form. You may want to have a period of time where you're doing more endurance-based training, more strength-based training, more hypertrophy-based training. But just simply changing that factor intermittently is likely going to be enough to move people past that plateau and give their body enough of a new stimuli to give it reason to change.
Yeah, the training response is really important. I think I have some people come straight to mind who overtrain. They love it, and then they do too much and they don't recover, which is a segue to the next question. And it's something I think everybody who's trained has experienced at some point. And I liked the way it was worded by one particular person. Are there specific strategies for optimizing recovery and managing soreness after intense workouts?
So honestly, sleep and ample nutrition, I keep going back to ample nutrition, but I see so many people that are under eating or eating too much of the wrong things and not enough of the right things. But sleep is key. And I mean, sleep is something like that's thrown around a lot and everybody knows it to be true, but we inherently don't act upon that truth. And I am 100% guilty of this. I mean, I don't get near enough sleep. I try to maximize the quality of my sleep because the quantity is subpar. But simply getting enough quality sleep is key. And then doing things that allow you to truly recover. So we spend so much of our time in this sympathetic state where we're constantly triggered, we have distractions. And if you're in that state around your food consumption, then your food absorption is going to be hindered as well. So one thing that I've been incorporating a lot of lately is just simply returning to a parasympathetic state prior to consuming any of my nutrients so that I can maximize the absorption of those nutrients. And I feel like that is something that can easily be done through 10 minutes of, breathing prior to eating a meal. Something of that nature would work well. Making sure you are getting that sleep. There's all kinds of different sleep remedies you can do, cold, dark setting, thermoregulation, things of that nature. A lot of the more sexier things you see thrown around today is like cold immersion and heat therapy. And there's some pretty compelling evidence to suggest that could be beneficial from a recovery standpoint. I've actually got a cold plunge that I'm going to be setting up today. And my cold plunge is simply a horse trough with cold water in it, so nothing fancy. But you can incorporate things like that to help with recovery. But if you're not injured, then your need for recovery is also going to be reduced. So just training intently, properly is going to minimize the need for specific recovery tactics as well.
Yeah. Do you think the cold plunge is superior to a cold shower, for instance?
Yeah, from a metabolic and hormonal standpoint, for sure. I mean, if you're in a shower and you're just in there for a few minutes at, brisk temperatures, that's not going to be nearly as beneficial from a brown fat generation standpoint as actually being submerged. Everything I've read says that you need to be submerged pretty much up to your neck in a cold plunge to really maximize the brown adipose tissue generation. And there's varying degrees of how long you should be submerged. I think most of the research suggests 11 minutes a week total. I believe that's what I see tossed around quite a bit. So you can kind of break that up however you see fit. So that's kind of what I personally try to incorporate.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I would say a cold shower works for me because I haven't got the money or the room to get a horse trough outside. So
Yeah.
it's a good halfway house. But if I could have a cold plunge, I definitely would, agree with you. That would be better. But I think, sorry, you can say.
No, I just totally agree with you.
Oh, right. Thank you. Right. Okay. Big question from the preloaded questions. Then we got one coming in live. But I love this question because I think this just applies to everything in life. But anyway, what are some effective ways to stay motivated and consistent with your fitness regime?
This is a deep question for sure. So you have to have a compelling reason, in my opinion, that is deeper than just a superficial surface level selfish reason. So for me, I found the most confidence in my ability to adhere to a training nutrition program when I recognized that what I was doing was beyond just my own selfish desires of looking good without a shirt on. Once I recognized that I was having a positive impact on the community and was able to inspire, educate, and motivate others, that gave me reason to stick with it. Once I had a son, that was quite compelling as well because I wanted to ensure that I was going to be the very best father I could be for him for years to come. So that's one of my main motivating factors. The fact that I'm seen as someone in the space that people look to for inspiration is a motivating factor, and just simply wanting to be better on a day-to-day basis. Like, you have a finite period of time on this planet. You can choose to live that in a very unhealthy manner that is going to lead to your demise and reduce the quality of your life as you age, which we will all do. Or you can do so in a way that instills the fountain of youth, so to speak. Like, if you are getting better every single day, which you can certainly do with proper nutrition and training, then every day is an opportunity to get better. And I think if you go through life with that lens, you're excited about putting in the work. And it's not even work at that point. It's something that you take great pleasure and passion in.
Yeah, I think it is a deep question, and it's one that really resonated with me recently. I think possibly because of the restrictions, I started to train differently. So I had the X3, which I think is a brilliant bit of kit. So the next thing I'm going to say isn't how bad the X3 is. It's actually a brilliant bit of kit. And I did it for 2 years. And then when I went back to the gym, what I'd noticed is I've got a little bit comfortable because I didn't have to travel anywhere, which sounds like a benefit. I didn't have to get up early. I could do it whenever I liked, which sounds like a benefit. But then I decided, I miss some of the sort of camaraderie and the nodding and seeing somebody that 6 weeks ago couldn't do a pull-up and because you go about the same time and all that sort of stuff. So anyway, I started to go early morning to the gym like I used to many years ago. But it had this sort of ripple effect throughout my entire life, which I didn't expect. And it got me out of bed earlier. And I marvel at the sky in the morning and how beautiful it was and how quiet it was. I work out fasted, same as you. So 6:30, I'm in the gym, and then you start, oh, yeah, I remember this. This is really great. And you seem to have more time, even though you're actually putting time towards that, because the rest of your life has more structure and you work around the gym times, which is I'm not obsessed by any shape or form of, I don't have to go to the gym, but I really enjoy it. But it's definitely helped other things in my life. It definitely has. It's made me more positive. It's made me appreciate the nature more. It's made me go out when maybe I wouldn't because, I can do the X3. It's nice and warm here. Why do I need to do that? And I just think that motivation into other areas of my work, content creation, my relationship, my dog, everything. I mean, when you talk about your son, that's a beautiful reason, isn't it? To stay fit, to live as long as possible, to be a great role model, and all those sort of things. I think that's wonderful.
You train, and when you are on top of your nutrition, like it creates a vehicle for you to exercise more self-discipline, more hard work, more consistency. And that spills over into every area of your life outside of the compositional changes. I mean, everything starts to improve. You start to appreciate things. You start to experience more gratitude, and you recognize that there is like the fruits of your labor. You recognize that when you put your mind and body towards something, you see the benefit, and then you just become that much more confident that that holds true with other areas of your life as well. So you tend to take more of an intentional approach to living. And I think that has been key. Whenever I find myself depressed or in a dark spot, if I simply adhere to what I've done with my training and nutrition, then I've got a solid foothold that I can use to crawl out of whatever hell I then find myself in. Because if I've got that solid footing, then I've got a foundation to pull from.
I think also the feeling of control is good, because if you're in a world where everything's driving you crazy, your boss, you don't like your boss or whatever, you can control the food you eat, you can control your fitness, you can control your working out, and it gives you that element, I think, of I'm taking control of my life. And then it does spill out into other areas, definitely. Helen Forrest is saying, I'm a 53-year-old postmenopausal woman trying to get in shape and lose weight. Started working with a trainer who wants me to have lots of complex carbs and I think that is a minimal protein in order to build muscle.
Minimal protein. Interesting.
Yeah, there's two parts to this. I keep trying to train fasted and eat carnivore, but I'm so winded. And he said that's why I'm not eating enough carbs, and he wants me to sip on fruit smoothies while I'm working out.
Yeah, I would probably fire that trainer. I don't think they know what they're talking about there. I mean, honestly, yeah, we don't have a carbohydrate problem. We do have a carbohydrate problem in the society, but from a biological standpoint, your lack of energy is not stemmed from a lack of carbohydrate consumption, especially if you're consuming copious amounts of it. If you're not eating enough protein, you're not going to be able to recover. You're not going to have the amino acids coming in to build and repair that muscle tissue from the training. And from an energy standpoint, you either got fat to pull from, dietary fat or stored fat or carbohydrates. And if you become fat adapted and have proper functioning fat metabolism, then I would suggest preferentially to use fat as opposed to carbohydrates. And you can do that from both stored and dietary fat. So I would not suggest the smoothies and increasing carbohydrates further. I would basically do the opposite of that, increase your protein and drop that dietary carbohydrate.
Yeah, and I'm going to echo that 100%. But thank you, Helen, for that question. And this is Ayana. I am so quad dominant. Squats are not my favorite for glutes. I like glute bridges and deadlifts.
Yeah, I mean, you can certainly target the glutes more specifically with glute bridges and deadlifts. Squats are going to incorporate a lot more quadriceps for sure. I've actually been doing a lot more barbell hip thrusts myself, and I do like those quite a bit. You can certainly feel that in the glutes.
Cool. Yeah, I actually not overly worried about people doing squats, but I quite like split squats.
Mm-hmm.
I quite like that as an option for people. But I'm also into plyometrics. I like box jumps and stuff like that for my glutes. I don't know.
Box jumps are great. Box jumps are great, like the explosive side too. Like the explosivity that we have as we're younger is one of the first things that goes as we age. So training with the intention of maintaining that explosiveness factor is key, and box jumps are probably one of the most effective and efficient ways of doing so.
Yeah, I really got into the box jumps actually, and I love them. But anyway, it's all about you answering the questions, not me rabbiting on. So here's a nice question that's come in, not through StreamYard. Anyway, how do I incorporate some methods to increase my flexibility? Which I think is a really interesting question, because people do worry that they're going to, the old-fashioned expressions, get muscle bound and their joints are going to sort of seize up, and they walk around like they've got two carpets under their arms.
Honestly, I've never really trained for flexibility specifically. I just train with full range of motion through my resistance training, and that has afforded me great flexibility. Because if you're training with full range of motion, then you're taking that muscle, those tendons, the joints, everything through their entire capable range. And like, just as an anecdote for myself, like I'm able to do the complete splits, and I've never trained for the splits. I just simply train with full range of motion, and I've have been afforded that flexibility. So simply doing that is going to be key.
Yes. Um, there is a question here, but they haven't put what their goal is. It says, what type of diet and nutrition plan should I follow to support my fitness goals? So what's the sort of general thing if someone comes to you and says, I just want to get fitter, I want to lose a bit of weight, I want to look okay in clothes, can you suggest a nutrition plan? What would you
really high level view, just simply eat real food. Like we can go down the rabbit hole on carbohydrate consumption, macronutrient distribution, caloric intake, all of that stuff. But from a very high level view, just simply eating real food is going to benefit the masses more so than anything else. I mean, there's so much like manufactured processed junk out there that is not contributing to your overall wellness. If you just simply remove that and eat things that are found in nature, so quality fats, quality proteins, and the carbohydrates that you do consume, if you are consuming those, make sure they're quality sources, which is going to rule out all the highly processed, highly inflammatory, most of these super high starchy carbohydrates. By default, you're likely going to see an incredible benefit towards your health.
Yeah, I think we will do the rabbit hole bit, Robert, if you're okay with that, because one question that does come up, or I'll get comments on YouTube, you can't build muscle without carbohydrates. That's the sort of comment I get. I just had a little to and fro with a lovely person telling me how wrong I am about everything. So what's your opinion? Do you have to have carbs to build muscle?
No, certainly not. I haven't had carbohydrates in 8+ years, and I've certainly put on muscle in that time frame. I mean, the main thing about building muscle is to be taking in a surplus of fuel, so ample nutrition there, ample protein, ample recovery, and ample training stimulus. Like if you are checking those boxes, your body will build muscle. A lot of people that argue that you have to have carbohydrates are coming at it from an insulin standpoint. You have to have these massive surges in insulin to add more tissue. But that's not the case. I mean, if you're eating ample protein, triggering the muscle properly and doing those factors right, checking those boxes, you're going to stimulate muscle protein synthesis and you will add more lean tissue.
Absolutely. Yes. And I think that this is the thing. I was told to educate myself, by the way, when I was told that I was
a lot of armchair quarterbacks out there that want to tell you how to do things, but a lot of haters.
There is, and it's very interesting because there's people like yourself who are proof that you don't. Absolutely. I do find it entertaining. It never annoys me, actually. It does entertain me. I mean, I was quite narrow-minded when I first started out, and I really believed all the hype, the high-carb diet. And, when I did my bodybuilding show at 24, I thought I was the bee's knees. I thought I knew everything,
Mm-hmm.
And then you get older and you realize you don't know anything. You've got to keep.
The more I learn, the more I realize I don't know.
Absolutely, and that is my phrase as well. I learn something new every day, and then I think, wow, that's 9 things I don't know about, and I need to find out about those other things. So it all makes sense. Right, here we go. How do I get abs?
How do you get abs? So everybody's got abs. Everybody's got abs. Now, you may be asking, how do you make your abs visible? In which case, the answer is simply to lose the abdominal belly fat. And that's going to mostly be in the kitchen more so than in the gym per se. A lot of people don't even train abs because you're bracing your core quite a bit through a lot of your compound movements, especially like when you're doing squats. You're bracing your core, hopefully. You're bracing your core through everything, really. I mean, the core is going to be a fairly developed muscle group for anybody that's doing any form of resistance training. You can certainly do movements that pronunciate that, like a hanging leg raise or something that totally elongates the muscle fibers and allows you to have a full range of motion with the abdominal cavity. But as far as making the abs visible, it's going to be more so a matter of just losing the body fat, which is going to be predominantly a result of dialing in the macronutrient intake and training such to lose body fat.
Yeah, and I think that is a golden question. And again, go back to nutrition. abs are made in the kitchen. Yes, it's a meme, but it is true. You're not going to see your abs if you're eating the wrong things. Now, in the UK, we have a thing called Couch to 5K, which is a sort of National Health Service thing. And it's very popular. I quite like it. I think it's a good idea to get people off the sofa, as we call it, or the couch, as they say in America. But the question is about running. So somebody is trying to learn to run 5K or maybe 10K. Can the gym and working out benefit somebody that is trying to improve their running?
Yeah. So kind of what I was saying earlier, if you're training, to full range of motion, that's going to improve your flexibility, which is also going to improve your likelihood of being more resilient in running. Plus, it's going to strengthen your skeletal structure. It's going to improve your bone density. It's going to improve your joint function, all of which is going to benefit running. I am not a runner by trade by any means, but I have done quite a few running stints, and all of my running has been improved by my weight training. Now, that said, that you're not going to want, like you were saying earlier, if you're trying to become the best bodybuilder you can be, you're probably not going to want to run countless marathons and vice versa. But yeah, there's certainly a realm or a window in which they are mutually beneficial for sure.
Yeah. So let's go back to you then. Let's go back to your journey. What do you see yourself doing in the future? Because this being the leanest man in the world type thing is quite a tough call. What's going to happen after that?
So the competitions are done. I finished my last competition on the 19th of November. So now I'm in the reverse diet phase. So I'm ramping my intake back up to try and improve my hormonal function, my metabolic function, improve and increase my metabolic rate, and build more lean tissue going into the building phase. So the next foreseeable future for me is going to be consisted of lifting heavier, eating more food, recovering, getting more sleep, and then just kind of returning to a healthy body fat. Like being sub 4% body fat is impressive, but it's not sustainable. It's not optimal from a hormonal standpoint or a health standpoint. So healthfully reversing out of this deficit is where I'm at right now.
So where would you say a healthy percentage would be for the average person who wants to look good, though?
Yeah, I mean, from my standpoint, and for most males, if you're between like 12 and 15, 16% body fat, that's a pretty reasonable, healthy body fat percentage. At that body fat, you're likely taking in enough food to build more tissue. You're not so low on your intake that you're going to likely experience many hormonal issues. But yeah, I would say between like 12 and 15% is a pretty good window for most guys. Females is a little bit higher, probably between 22 28%. That's a pretty healthy range for most females.
Why do you think they need a higher body fat percentage then?
A lot of different factors. I mean, from a hormonal standpoint, they're going to benefit from that higher body fat percentage. Plus, they've got a menstrual cycle. They rear children. They have pregnancy. They have all these things that us guys will have to fool around with. And all that's going to require a little bit higher body fat percentage as well.
Great. Robert, that's been such a quick fire 45 minutes. I really appreciate you doing that. And I think everybody that submitted questions, and I had a few comments saying you'll never get through all the questions, but I wanted to tonight. So I definitely did do that. So every question that was submitted, we've answered. And I might have paraphrased a group of questions because they ended up being very similar. I think when it comes to training, there are a lot of influencers that really do overcomplicate it. And you're right. You can go on and you can see some crazy things being said about the body and glycogen. And I'm thinking of one particular one that's really got a lot of traction. And it's just rubbish, most of it. It's so simple, isn't it? What you want to do when you're training. Eat your food, work out, lift heavy things, and work out so you've worked out.
And do so consistently. I mean, people, they'll jump from one, over sensationalized program to the next every other week. And that's not going to be what you want to do. I mean, simply sticking to the basics, but doing so over years. I mean, that's where the fruits of the labor really shine through.
So if people want you to hook up with you, what's the best way for them to take advantage of your knowledge?
So I am Keto Savage on all things social and the interwebs. KetoSavage.com is my website. Keto Savage on social. And yeah, I'm working on a course right now that'll be under keto bodybuilding. But all things Keto Savage is where you'll find me.
Excellent. And I want to talk about the keto brick.
Okay.
For people that don't know you, little potted history of the keto brick.
Yeah, so the keto brick was never designed to be a product. It was kind of made as a way to scratch my own itch during my 2017 competition prep. I wanted to streamline my meal prep and just consume something that was ready to eat, hit the target macros, and just made life easier. So I set out to design the brick, and that's exactly what I did. People saw it online. I was documenting my prep then as well. People kept asking about it, so we rolled up our sleeves and made it into a product. But it's basically a 1,000 calorie ketogenic shelf stable meal nutrition bar with the proper macronutrient distribution. The primary ingredient is raw organic cacao butter, which is one of the best sources of dietary fat. In my opinion, it's very high in stearic acid. We have some that use a vegetable based protein powder, some that use a grass finished whey protein powder, and we're constantly coming out with new flavors, new varieties, and we make those all in house, so the quality can be 100% attested for.
Yeah. Why stearic acid?
So
Is that good?
yeah, stearic acid it's a very shelf stable fat source. So if you look at something like caloric acid or butter, it's going to melt in your hand. Whereas stearic acid, cacao butter, tallow, things that have a lot of stearic acid, they're not going to be as susceptible to melting. So that kind of provides a shelf stability factor. But it's also incredibly well absorbed by the body. There's been some research that indicates that it actually makes the adipocyte themselves, so the fat cells, more insulin resistant. And at the adipocyte, you want that to be the case. Like you don't want the fat cells themselves to be insulin sensitive. So there's that. And then from an energy and just simply absorption standpoint, my body tends to respond very, very well to it. Like some fat sources are heavily refined and processed and inflammatory. Not so much the case with quality stearic acid.
And what countries can get the keto brick?
So we ship them all over the world. That said, international shipping is crazy expensive. So we're trying to figure out ways to cut costs there so that people don't have to pay that much for shipping. But yeah, we sell them everywhere.
Yeah. And they're fantastic. And I'm not saying that because I got Robert on. I say that when Robert's not on. I think it's one of the best things. I speak to Colt Milton about them. I think they're amazing. And I saw Dr. Sean Baker, wearing a Keto Brick t-shirt today. So that's a good endorsement. But I'm going to say this publicly, Robert. You're one of the nicest guys I've ever met. I wish I could meet you in real life because you've really encouraged me. I find it very difficult to get content watched and, get people on. And you've been so generous and really encouraged me. It's just been amazing. And I wanted to thank you because I say it to everybody that does mention you, that you're one of the nicest guys around. And I hope at some point I'll have enough money to come fly over and annoy you in the gym one day and do a face-to-face.
Hey, it would not be an annoyance whatsoever. I would genuinely enjoy that. I appreciate the opportunity to come on your platform and speak. And if there's ever anything I can do for you, by all means, just let me know.
Yeah, you've been a massive help, and it's been really great. And just want to thank you. You came on to the 24-hour live stream, and you've messaged me privately, and yeah, you've just really been helpful. And I just wanted to shout you out for that. So it's good. And there are a few people saying that they love the keto brick, and we've got some people, some late arrivals, former fat girl, come in. So yes. We'll wrap up there, I think, unless you've got any burning issues that you want to talk about.
No, that's great, man. I mean, I'm always excited to chat with you. I'm excited to go into 2024. There's so many things that we're going to be doing now that my competition season is over and done with for the foreseeable future. So you and I both have a lot of exciting things in the pipeline.